Hi, this is Jeff Josephson, CEO at LeadGen.com, and I'd like to take a few minutes to share with you some of the basic concepts behind selling LeadGen.com's products and services so that you can successfully sell as much as you need to in order to meet your personal, financial, and career objectives with as little time, expense, and effort as possible. To start off, I'd like to talk for a minute about the tagline that you see on this slide and that shows up right under our logo on the LeadGen.com website. That LeadGen.com is your one-stop shop for all your B2B sales and marketing needs. This statement is the key to understanding who we are, what we do, and why we think someone should buy from us. It's what differentiates us from any other solution on the market, and it's what should make selling LeadGen.com's products and services easier, more profitable, and more rewarding than selling just about any other solution that's out there. In order to understand what it means, though, and why it's important, let's take a closer look at what it says. First of all, what do we mean by B2B, and who are these B2B companies we're targeting? If you're relatively new to selling in B2B, it may be an unfamiliar term, but you should understand that at LeadGen.com, what we're targeting are those businesses that sell to other businesses as opposed to those businesses that sell to ordinary consumers. Comprising about 1/3 of the economy, B2B includes companies like industrial manufacturers, distributors, equipment providers, financial service companies, professional service providers like accountants, lawyers, and consultants, tech companies, insurance brokers, commercial real estate firms, commercial builders, and many, many others. But basically, any business whose customers are other businesses are our targets. By the way, these companies are very easy to identify because while they make up only about 1/3 of the companies that are out there, they comprise about 90% of the SIC codes and NAICS codes on list sources that you would typically use like Sales Genie and Hoovers, so they're easy to find. What we want to sell to them are, in short, marketing and sales solutions that can help them increase their sales, their market share, and their profitability. These solutions include things like telemarketing services, websites, sales recruiting services, CRMs, promotional programs, sales training, content writing, email marketing programs, and about 50 other products and services that we'll talk more about. But that's what we want to sell, and to whom. To help put things in perspective, though, you should understand, if you don't already, that B2B marketing and sales, which is what we specialize in, is very different from consumer marketing and sales. And so the kinds of tools that one would use in B2B are very different from what one would use in B2C. For example, talking to a business executive from a marketing perspective is very different from talking to a soccer mom or to Joe Sixpack. You often have to make an appointment just to speak to a business decision maker, and he often has gatekeepers and voicemail in the way, unlike the consumer buyer who usually just vacuums up advertisements on TV or references from the internet. The decision criteria that business buyers use are also very different from what a consumer buyer typically uses. For example, business buyers typically buy on a rational basis, like on ROI, payback, functionality, or performance metrics, while consumers usually buy on the basis of emotion, on aesthetics, or on entertainment value. B2B decisions are also usually far more collaborative, drawing input from users, economic buyers, technical experts, consultants, and executives, while most consumer decisions are made just by the buyer. The products and services that businesses buy are often very different from those that consumers buy also, and the structure of the markets are very different, with B2B being far more segmented and targetable than B2C. And the process that a business buyer goes through to buy is very different from the process that a consumer buyer goes through, something that has an enormous impact on what we offer and how we sell it, an issue that I'm going to come back to in a moment. The point is that because of the differences between having businesses as customers and having consumers as customers, the tools and techniques that these B2B companies use to market and sell their products and services are very different from what B2C companies use. And because we understand what works and what doesn't in B2B sales and marketing, having done this for well over 20 years, we want to be the ones to sell them all the tools and techniques that they need to compete and to be successful in their B2B markets. Thus, for example, B2B marketing involves a lot more direct techniques like direct mail, cold calling, telemarketing, trade shows, and networking events than consumer marketing, which generally uses mass marketing techniques like advertising and social media. And so we want to be the ones to develop and sell them their lists and their direct mail programs, their cold calling services, and their telemarketing programs, and all the things they need to make their trade shows successful to exhibit at or their networking events successful to attend. B2B companies also tend to use highly trained field salespeople, while consumer companies generally use less well-trained store clerks. And so since we know what they're looking for and how to do that sales job, we want to be the one they turn to, not only to recruit good field salespeople, but to train them and coach them as well. B2B companies also use tools like case histories, economic value to the customer models, sell sheets, proposals, and business cases to justify the purchase, while consumer marketing uses coupons, time discounts, and Facebook likes. Again, since we can generally do it better than even most clients, and certainly better than most other solution providers, we want to be the ones to write their case histories, build their EVC models, develop their sell sheets, proposal templates, and business cases too. And while both B2B and B2C companies use tools like websites, CRM systems, and even email marketing programs, the B2B versions, at least the effective ones, are often very different from their consumer cousins. And so it's going to make sense to buy yours from a B2B specialist if you're a B2B company, and we want to be the one they use. In any event, these are the kind of things we want to sell and to whom. So while I'll come back to some of this a little later, I'd like to get into a little more detail now about how to sell LeadGen.com services, as well as how they all fit together. And to do that, I need to talk about one of the most fundamental differences between B2B and B2C, which is illustrated by the B2B sales cycle. Unlike consumer marketing, which often involves impulse purchases influenced by advertising, the classic B2B transaction generally follows a pretty formal, stepwise process as shown on this slide, called the B2B sales cycle. Whether you think of it as a linear set of events or a literal circular cycle, the B2B sales process is basically a set of stages that the seller and buyer go through, starting from where the seller is an unknown entity and the buyer is an unidentified suspect, through to where, if they are both successful, the sale is made and they have become trusted partners with one another, advancing the interests of both parties. If you look at the steps of the process, and we'll use the linear version for illustration purposes, you can see that you can look at the process from either the buyer's perspective, that is, from the top down, or from the seller's perspective, that is, from the bottom up. Both go through an analogous set of steps, in some cases where the seller takes the initiative and the buyer responds, or vice versa. But if everything works out right, the process moves forward, in this case from left to right. In the buyer's case, of course, he starts out as unaware and unconcerned, but through the actions of the vendor, he becomes aware and a little bit interested. And through more actions by the vendor, as well as some of his own, that interest level is increased and broadened, and any objections he has are overcome until he makes a decision to buy and implement the solution. From the vendor's bottom-up perspective, he needs lists to know who to target, techniques such as marketing and lead generation, supported by CRMs, case histories, brochures, emails, and other promotions to generate attention and stimulate initial interest. He needs sales training and sales aids to increase that interest level. He needs to make follow-up calls supported by proof statements, applications, strategies, presentations, and proposals to cover his bases, overcome objections, and hopefully close. But this both describes the process that we're selling into and the tools we're selling. Okay, so why am I focusing on the B2B sales cycle? The first reason is that every one of our B2B clients uses some form of this process in their marketing and sales programs. Every one of them. And so it provides a common agenda for talking to clients about needs, goals, and barriers to success. The second reason is because everything we do at LeadGen.com is specifically designed to help our clients move forward successfully and cost effectively with this process, to the point where they meet all their goals for revenue growth, market share, and profitability. But most importantly, you should also understand that fully 100% of the failures that occur in B2B sales and marketing can be tied explicitly to the failure of the company involved, and which is why we want them to become a client to advance from one step in this process to another. That is, everything you need to know in order to understand B2B marketing and sales, and everything you need to do and do successfully appears somewhere on this diagram. And so you need to understand it in order to be successful in B2B marketing and sales in general, regardless of whether you work for LeadGen.com or not. However, since it also represents everything we want to sell, it's absolutely essential that you understand it if you do. That is, the application of every single product and service that LeadGen.com offers fits somewhere in this process, a process that, conveniently, every one of your prospects also use. From a product line perspective, by the way, it's our goal to have at least one solution for every single step and sub-step, for that matter, in this process, so that our clients need to go nowhere else for solutions. But that, in sum, is what being a one-stop shop for all your B2B sales and marketing needs is all about. Okay, in the interest of time, I'm going to point out just a few examples, and then I'm going to finish up by talking about how to do the job. So, for example, let's say that you have a client whose salespeople are having trouble getting in the door. That is, getting the attention and initial interest of their decision makers. For that, we have professional B2B telemarketing, lead generation, and appointment setting, along with promotion, content marketing, email marketing, and dozens of other tools and techniques. Or let's say that you have a client who's having trouble convincing his prospects that his product will save them money. For him, we can develop an economic value to the customer model that will convince his prospects that they'll save money by buying his product. Let's say you have a client whose salespeople are having trouble closing. For that, we have professional B2B sales training and coaching, as well as specialized consulting to figure out the cause and come up with a solution. Let's say that you have a client who's having trouble getting other decision makers to vote for his solution. For that, we can develop case histories, sales aids, and nurture campaigns that can flush out other contacts and help them see the value of talking and of getting on board. In fact, let's say you have a client that doesn't even know where their growth is going to come from next year because the bottom just dropped out of their market. Well, for them, we can conduct market research to identify new markets and help them develop a business plan that's going to point the way and maybe even help them get it funded. As you'll see, we have solutions for literally every stage in the B2B sales cycle, no matter where they're getting blocked, as well as all the infrastructure they need too, including contact management systems, websites, recruiting, campaign components, software development, and more. That's why our goal is that there should be nothing that a client needs to be successful in B2B sales and marketing that we don't offer, and because it's the only way to do a good job. Why do I say that? First of all, having a one-stop shop is just more convenient. It's one phone call and you're done. But there are actually some very concrete benefits that we'll introduce here and that we go into more detail about on the website. One of the most important advantages derives from our concept of develop it once, use it everywhere. What this is referring to is the fact that whatever marketing or sales initiatives you undertake, whether it's an advertising program, building a website, developing a telemarketing campaign, doing PR, or even building a trade show booth, every single program you do requires that, in some way, you articulate your company's value proposition within it, along with your benefits, your positioning, your objections handles, and all the other concepts behind your value. The problem is that if you use a different vendor for each program, then you have to re-educate each vendor about your value proposition and all the other concepts every time, which they then need to customize for their particular program. In some cases, such as when developing a telemarketing program or website, re-articulating and customizing these concepts can amount to 25% to 50% or more of the cost of the program. With LeadGen.com, however, you only have to articulate them once, and they can then be easily incorporated into every other marketing and sales program without having to reinvent the wheel each time, saving tens of thousands of dollars per year and potentially tens of thousands of dollars per program. Another advantage of a one-stop shop is our one throat to choke solution. What I mean by this is that with a traditional multi-vendor approach to sales and marketing solutions, when something goes wrong, and by the way, something always goes wrong, it inevitably leads to finger pointing. The direct mail house blames the copywriter for weak content, the telemarketing firm blames the list vendor for bad names, the CRM provider blames the sales reps for entering bad data, and on and on. With LeadGen.com, however, you get a single point of contact and one person to be responsible for everything, one throat to choke, so you get the accountability and therefore the results that you need. The third major advantage is that LeadGen.com's one-stop shop approach is the only way that you can get truly unbiased advice about which solution to use. Contrary to the natural inclination that if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail, because LeadGen.com offers a full array of solutions, we don't care which ones you use. We only have to worry about which ones are right. We get paid regardless of which solutions you end up implementing, so we don't have to be biased about our recommendations. And so you especially don't end up wasting your money and your time doing things you probably shouldn't do. Fourth, but by no means final major benefit, is that only with a one-stop shop can you fill all the gaps between your marketing and sales programs, a problem that is epidemic today, especially with marketing programs that produce so many unqualified sales leads. There are literally dozens of other benefits, such as being able to take advantage of pass-through vendor discounts, getting access to some genuine geniuses in B2B marketing and sales, and having a dedicated account manager who cares at least as much about your bottom line as he does about his own. But given that this is supposed to be more of an overview, I want to wrap up by addressing the issue that because we have so many solutions, it can all seem a little bit intimidating. When you have such a large number of products and services to sell, as we do at LeadGen.com, it can sometimes seem to be a bit of a challenge to explain to the client how they all fit together and to help them pick the right solutions. And so, assuming that together you can identify where in the sales cycle the client thinks he's getting blocked, You then need to be able to quote the price of a solution quickly, and at least well enough to give a ballpark estimate of the costs so you can make a preliminary decision about affordability, options, and maybe about moving forward. LeadGen.com, we have a solution to both problems. The first one, of course, we've already discussed a little. That is, if you look at the world through the lens of the B2B sales cycle, then every need that a client could possibly have and every solution you would need to address it appears somewhere on the diagram. So you can easily use the sales cycle as a sales aid to identify and scope the problem. You then only need to identify possible solutions as you uncover needs, gaps, and barriers to success from the list of LeadGen.com products and services, which are conveniently organized like the building blocks of a B2B sales cycle right on the website. Pricing, then, we've created a simple estimating tool, one that you can access over the web that lets you plug in your assumptions about goals, objectives, and resources and instantly come up with a ballpark estimate for the cost of a solution. Now, to be sure, some things can be tougher to estimate than others, and you'll need to get estimates approved in order to issue an invoice and close. But the estimator provides your clients with a powerful, fast, and convenient way to know whether something will be affordable. And that can be a tremendous help when you're trying to move the process forward. So before we finish up, let me just show you a couple of quick examples of how the estimator works, although it may still be under development for some products and services when you see this video. As you can see, all the products and services that we sell appear on the estimator, along with their list prices and the major factors needed to calculate the cost. Most importantly, with many of the items, you'll notice a link to a worksheet that you can click to personalize your estimate. So for example, if the client needs a telemarketing program, you can enter the number of targets, you can enter some assumptions about the dial rate and contact rate and the duration of a call, and quickly come up with the number of hours it should take to cover their market. You can then plug the result back into the estimator, hit update, and you have a first-pass estimate of what the program should cost. Likewise with selling a website. In this case, you pull up the website worksheet and enter assumptions about what content the client already has, what type and quality of website they want to build, along with the features, and again it comes up with a ballpark estimate of the hours it will take to build. Put it in the appropriate boxes, hit update, and you have a price you can use for budgeting. Same process works for email marketing, SEO, content creation, and more. All you have to do is plug in your assumptions, hit update, and you get a number he can either live with and you can close on or not. Just remember, when you're done, scroll to the bottom to save your estimate. You can print it out, send it in for approval, and of course give it to the client to consider. This approach works with, or shortly will be available for, campaign components, lead generation, promotion, sales development, staffing, and almost all of our other in-house solutions. And for those where we don't control the pricing, the estimator will show the affiliates price list. And by the way, it will also show you approximately what your commission will be, so you'll know right away approximately what you're going to earn from the sale. Using this approach, though, you can easily uncover the client's needs and show them what it will cost to solve the problem, all in a matter of minutes, right from your laptop or tablet, so all you have to do is sell. What could be easier? I know this was a lot to absorb, but from the 30,000-foot view, it should really be pretty simple. What you need to remember is this. LeadGen.com is a one-stop shop for all your B2B sales and marketing needs, so your clients can get everything they need to increase their sales, their market share, and their profitability with just one phone call. This also implies that, as long as their sales model exhibits something even close to the traditional B2B sales cycle, we have a solution for any barrier to success they might be experiencing. Because of our develop it once, use it everywhere capabilities, we can usually save the client 10% to 25% or more on many solutions when compared to single solution vendors. Because we give you a single point of contact, clients get accountability and therefore results that they can't get anywhere else. Because we have a whole family of solutions, they don't fall victim to the if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail bias that other vendors possess. And because of our online estimator, clients can find out what the solutions are going to cost, both individually and in aggregate, and they can even manage their marketing and sales programs like the portfolio of investment options they're actually supposed to be. Given our ability to solve virtually any marketing or sales problem that a B2B client might have, and the fact that no one else out there can do what we can do, as well or as inexpensively as we can do it, hopefully you'll find selling LeadGen.com will enable you to have fun and make money while helping your clients achieve the success they desire. Thanks, and I look forward to your success.